ओम मम उपात्त समस्त दुरितक्षयद्वारा श्री परमेश्वर प्रीत्यर्थम विद्या सिद्ध्यर्थम च अहम श्री दक्षिणामूर्ति पूजां करिष्ये। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं गजाननं भूतगणादिसेवितं कपित्थजम्बूफलसारभक्षितम् उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपञ्चकम्। ॐ सुमुखाय नमः। ॐ एकदन्ताय नमः। ॐ कपिलाय नमः। ॐ गजकर्णकाय नमः। ॐ लम्बोदराय नमः। ॐ विघ्नराजाय नमः। ॐ विनायकाय नमः। ॐ धूमकेतवे नमः। ॐ गणाध्यक्षाय नमः। ॐ फालचन्द्राय नमः। ॐ गजाननाय नमः। ॐ वक्रतुण्डाय नमः। ॐ शूर्पकर्णाय नमः। ॐ हेरम्भाय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दपूर्वजाय नमः। ॐ श्री सिद्धिविनायकस्वामिने नमः। ॐ स्फटिकरजतवर्णं मौक्तिकीमक्षमालाम् अमृतकलशविद्यां ज्ञानमुद्रां कराग्रे ददतमुरगकक्षं चन्द्रचूडं त्रिनेत्रं विधृतविविधभूषं दक्षिणामूर्तमीडे। ॐ नमो भगवते दक्षिणामूर्तये मह्यं श्रियं मेधां प्रज्ञां प्रयच्छ स्वाहा। ॐ नमो भगवते दक्षिणामूर्तये मह्यं श्रियं मेधां प्रज्ञां प्रयच्छ स्वाहा। ॐ नमो भगवते दक्षिणामूर्तये मह्यं श्रियं मेधां प्रज्ञां प्रयच्छ स्वाहा। ॐ ओंकारसिंहसर्वेन्द्राय नमः। ॐ ओंकारोद्यानकोकिलाय नमः। ॐ ओंकारनीलशुकराजे नमः। ॐ ओंकारारण्यकुञ्जराय नमः। ॐ नगराजसुताजानये नमः। ॐ नगराजनिजालयाय नमः। ॐ नवमाणिक्यमालाढ्याय नमः। ॐ नवचन्द्रशिखामणये नमः। ॐ नन्दितशेषमौनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ नन्दीशादिमदेशिकाय नमः। ॐ मोहानलसुधासाराय नमः। ॐ मोहाम्बुजसुधाकराय नमः। ॐ मोहान्धकारतरणये नमः। ॐ मोहोत्पलनभोमणये नमः। ॐ भक्तज्ञानाब्धिशीतांशवे नमः। ॐ भक्तज्ञानतृणालयाय नमः। ॐ भक्ताम्बोजसहस्रांशवे नमः। ॐ भक्तकेकिघनाघनाय नमः। ॐ भक्तकैरवराकेन्दवे नमः। ॐ भक्तकोकदिवाकराय नमः। ॐ गजाननादिसम्पूज्याय नमः। ॐ गजचर्मोज्ज्वलाकृतये नमः। ॐ गङ्गाधवलदिव्याङ्गाय नमः। ॐ गङ्गापङ्किलसज्जटाय नमः। ॐ गगनाम्बरसंवीताय नमः। ॐ गगनामुक्तमूर्धजाय नमः। ॐ वदनाब्धजिताब्जश्रिये नमः। ॐ वदनेन्दुस्फुरिद्दिशाय नमः। ॐ वरदानैकनिपुणाय नमः। ॐ वनवीरोज्ज्वलत्कराय नमः। ॐ वनवाससमुल्लासाय नमः। ॐ वनवीरैकलोलुपाय नमः। ॐ तेजभुञ्जघनाकाराय नमः। ॐ तेजसामपि भासकाय नमः। ॐ विनेयानां तेजःप्रदाय नमः। ॐ तेजोमयनिजाश्रमाय नमः। ॐ दमितानङ्गसङ्ग्रामाय नमः। ॐ तरहासजिताङ्गनाय नमः। Om Dayarasa Sudha Sindhave Namaha. Om Daridradhan Shevadaye Namaha. Om Kshirendu Sphatikakaraye Namaha. Om Kshirendu Mukutojwalaye Namaha. Om Shiropahara Rasikaya Namaha. Om Kshipraishwarya Phalapradaya Namaha. Om Nana Bharana Mugdhangaya Namaha. Om Nari Sammohana Kritaye Namaha. Om Nada Brahmarasa Swadine Namaha. Om Nagabhushina Bhushitaya Namaha. Om Murti Nindita Kandarpaya Namaha. Om Murta Murta Jagat Vapushe Namaha. Om Mula Jnana Tamo Bhanave Namaha. Om Murti Kalpapadapaya Namaha. Om Tarunaditya Sankashaya Namaha. Om Taruno Tantrivadana Tatparaya Namaha. Om Tarumulaika Nilayaya Namaha. Om Tapta Jambunada Prabhaya Namaha. Om Tattupustol Satpanaye Namaha. Om Tapanodupalochanaya Namaha. Om Yamasamyuta Satkirtaye Namaha. Om Yamasamyutaya Namaha. Om Yatirupadharaya Maunine Namaha. Om Yatindropasa Vigrahaya Namaha. Om Mandarahara Ruchiraya Namaha. Om Madanayuta Sundaraya Namaha. Om Mandasmitalasat Vaktraya Namaha. Om Madhuradhara Pallavaya Namaha. Om Manjir Manjupadabjaya Namaha. Om Manipattora Satkataye Namaha. Om Hastankurita Chinmudraya Namaha. Om Hatha Yoga Parottamaya Namaha. Om Hamsajapyakshamadhyaya Namaha. Om Hamsetvaradhya Padukaya Namaha. Om Meru Shringatatolasaya Namaha. Om Meghashyama Manoharaya Namaha. Om Medhankuralavalagryaya Namaha. Om Medha Pakvaphaladrumaya Namaha. Om Dharmikantar Guhavasaya Namaha. Om Dharmamarga Pravartakaya Namaha. Om Dhamatraya Nijaramaya Namaha. Om Dharmottama Manorathaya Namaha. Om Prabodhodkara Deepashriye Namaha. Om Prakashita Jagatraya Namaha. Om Pragya Chandrashila Chandraya Namaha. Om Pragyamani Varakaraya Namaha. Om Jnanantarabhasatmane Namaha. Om Jnatragyadi Vidurgaya Namaha. Om Jnanagyadvaita Divyangaya Namaha. Om Jnanagyatri-gulagataya Namaha. Om Prapanna-parijatagryaya Namaha. Om Pranatarthyapti-bhadavaya Namaha. Om Bhutanam Pramana-bhutaya Namaha. Om Prapancha-hitakarikaya Namaha. Om Yat-tattvamasi samvedyaya Namaha. Om Yakshageyatma-vaibhavaya Namaha. Om Yajnadi-devata-murtaye Namaha. Om Yajamanava-purdharaya Namaha. Om Chhatradipati-vishveshaya Namaha. Om Chhatrasamara-sevitaya Namaha. Om Chanda-shastradi-nipunaya Namaha. Om Chalajatya-durgaya Namaha. Om Swabhavika-sukhaikatmane Namaha. Om Swanubhuti-rasodadaye Namaha. Om Swarajya-sampadadhyakshaya Namaha. Om Swatma Rama Mahamataye Mataye Namaha. Om Hatakabhajata-jutaya Namaha. Om Hasodastari Mandalaya Namaha. Om Hala-halojvalaggalaya Namaha. Om Hardagranthi Vimochakaya Namaha. Om Shri Dakshinamurti Swamine Namaha. Om Shri Dayananda Satgurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Maheshananda Satgurubhyo Namaha. We put this on this table and we'll get started. So perhaps what we should do is to chant the Dasha Mantras and then go over the meaning of the mantra that we were doing. Then we will start the class with our normal prayer. So let's do that. Turn this audio on. So, Dasha Mantras. Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Yaschandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyodhyamritaat sambabhuva Tamendro medhaya aspranotu Amritasya devadharano bhuyasam Shariram me vicharshanam Jihva me madhumattama Karna abhyam bhuri vishruvam Brahmanav koshosi medhaya pihitaha Shrutam me gopaya Om Shanti 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 Aham Rikshasya Reriva Kirtif Prishtam Gireriva Urdu Pavitro Vajiniva Swamritamasmi Dravinagum Savarchasam Sumedha Amritokshitaha Itirtishankor Vedanu Vachanam Om Shanti 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 Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Apyayantu mama angani Vakpranas chakshuh shrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani Nirteyo Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mai Santu Om Shanti 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 Vang me manasi pratisthita Mano me vachi pratishthitam Avir avir maedi Vedasya maani istaha Shrutam me ma prahasi Anenadhitena Ahoratran sandadhami Ritam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmam avatu Tadvaktaram avatu Avatu mam Avatu vaktaram Avatu vaktaram Avatu vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Bhadram no api vataya manaha Om Shanti 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 Bhadram karnebhi shrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashyema akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangayus तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं हदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। So we were reviewing the very first mantra, Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha. And so I think we had done Mitraha, Varunaha, Aryama, Indraha. I'm not sure, I don't think we have done Brihaspatihi. So let's start with the Brihaspatihi. Sham Brihaspatihi. So the so all these are faculties that are given to us. The various faculties which are part of a human being. As soon as the human being is born, all these qualities, powers, etc., are given to us. And so, you know, the entire bodily structure, just a remarkable thing how the prana comes in to enliven the body. And you need food, so there's food available, and then you take the food in and you process it, and you progress in the process of doing all this. So all these are faculties given to us. So one of the greatest faculties given to us, which ultimately is the door to freedom. You see, the bodily functions, health, etc., are all supporting. They are not the primary faculties for us. The primary faculty for us that are being supported by all the other ones is the final door for the freedom. And that is our buddhi, our thinking. And so this is why the animals don't go through this door. See, if you can visualize this as the kind of like the final door to the inner sanctum. And the inner sanctum is the nature of Param Brahma, which is nothing but yourself. This is the inner sanctum. So if you visualize a temple, this is the final door to the inner sanctum. And that final door is the buddhi, is the intellect. And just not ordinary intellect, but wisdom. Wisdom. So there's a difference between ordinary intelligence and wisdom. But you can see that even in life also. You find people who are very smart, extremely smart. You know, the various example given is here that of Ravana and Rama. So Ravana was a very smart person. You cannot be the king of the Sri Lanka and without having the power to think and to be intelligent. So he also had intellect, but he didn't have buddhi. He did not have the wisdom as to why I am born, what is it supposed to be I am supposed to do, what is the freedom. So you go for temporary freedom. This is just your symptomatic relief. All of us do this. We go for symptomatic relief, but the real buddhi is the path to freedom. Anyway, out of all the faculties, the buddhi is the faculty of the important faculty. And a secondary part of that is also my speech, Vani. And so, for example, it is said that really Vani is the expression of Buddhi. Vani means the speech, the faculty of speaking. Faculty of speaking means thinking, then what comes out as speech is a reflection of your Buddhi. If you say things that, we all say things the whole day, but if you observe, what is the quality of our speech? What is the intent of our speech? In what area is it really working on? So the speech is necessary for some simple things, like, you have to go to the grocery store and he says, I can't find cilantro. So you have to ask somebody, where is cilantro? And so the person says, okay, it's at the very end there. So you need speech for some ordinary things. And then you need speech for just transacting with people and so on. So speech is necessary. But then the quality of the speech kind of gives us an idea of where you are in your life. If the Vani is very perfunctory, normal, then you're okay. But if the Vani is to talk about the higher portions of the life, and including, for example, the welfare of others, how are you, and being very sincere about it, then the Vani also becomes an expression of Buddhi. Anyway, I'm just going a little bit more detailed than I intended to. But the Brihaspati here, Brihaspati, a marvelous explanation by Swami Maheshananji. I think on this mantra, he starts his commentary on number 3, 4, 5, 6, which is where we are at today, 6, 7, 8 and 9. 7 pages. And let me tell you, the 7 pages are so densely populated with meaning after meaning after meaning. And I'm telling you, 40% of that is Sanskrit words. If I just read it to you, you'll be amazed. So excellent commentary, all just concentrated in a small 7 pages. All the things. We can spend really a whole year just talking about this one mantra. Anyway, that's just my observation. Just this morning I was looking at it and I was just amazed. I have not seen really anybody give such a revelation of the inner meanings, subtle meanings of each of these words and so on. So, for example, Brihaspatihi. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, that all the faculties that are given to us have a devata associated with the faculty. Well, you know that by now. All the faculties that we have. So, for example, prana is a faculty. There is a devata for it. The karma-indriyas is a faculty. There is a devata for it. Means the adhisthata, the one who's really the creator of that faculty, through which Ishvara reveals that faculty. He's the controller of the faculty. He's the one that we should ask for protection. and for progress on that particular faculty. This is what is called adhisthata. Adhisthata means the ruler of that faculty. The ruler of both Vani and Buddhi is Brihaspati. And there is another name for Brihaspati which is called Sadashiva. Sadashiva, which is the faculty of Ishvara in the name of Brihaspati and Sadashiva. So here, another name for that is Vedatma. Swamiji says this here. Beautiful connection. So, वाणी और बुद्धि के अधिष्ठाता बृहस्पति वेदात्मा सदाशिव हैं. वेद सदाशिव की बुद्धि या ज्ञान है. यह वेद शब्द से ही स्पष्ट है. Beautiful. He says that the Sadashiva means that Shiva forever, always. Shiva itself is above the time. He's the creator of time, so he's got to be above time. We are also above time, but we don't realize it. And so the Shiva is above time, but the expression of Shiva in the time is called Sadashiva. Sadashiva means that it is always there. In what form is it always there? Vedatma. Vedatma. So here, if you just think about this is what Swami Maheshananji is saying. Veda Sadashiv ki buddhi ya gyan hai. I'll explain that in English in a minute. Veda Sadashiv ki buddhi ya gyan hai. Yah Ved shabd se hi spasht hai. So he says that the buddhi of, and you can say even Vani, so because he is the Adhisthana Devata for both of them. So both buddhi and Vani is in the form of Vedas. Vedas. And so the Vedas mean the entire, what's the English word for it? Handbook? There's another word which is more encompassing than handbook. This is one of the disadvantages of my just talking and YouTube. If it was live, then you'll be giving me, you're probably thinking about some other words. It's a super handbook. What is it called? There's another word for it. Anyway, handbook means a complete treatise. You know, just like you buy something new which you cannot figure out, which happens every day, and then there is an owner's handbook that comes with it. And there you can just go to page number such and such. If you have an example of this, that, or the other. We just got leased a new car for my wife because her previous lease finished and the new one started. And it is just amazing how complex these new cars have become. It's a hybrid, it's a plug-in hybrid, Audi Q5. So many features. You have no idea what all these buttons are for. So I actually have it right here. And so from time to time I have to study it. This is called handbook. And in the handbook you have everything that you wanted to know about the car. Not possible to read it without really studying it in detail. Vedas is the handbook for life. This is exactly what it is. And the handbook is interesting that it never changes. See the Q5, because the old version of the Q5 is now over. There is a new version of Q5, new features, all kinds of new things. So the handbook changes, but the handbook of life, which is Vedas, never changes. So this is why it is called Sadashiva. You see, that's the interesting thing. Sadashiva means that this is it. And then how much time we have? Oh my God, it's 8:31 already. I cannot believe it. I think I better stop because there's quite a bit to talk about on this. It just turns it into a class. What can I do? So anyway, we'll continue with that, with the understanding of the word Brihaspati. Shanno mitra sham varunaha shanno bhavat varyama shanna indro Brihaspati. And so this prayer to the faculty of Buddhi and Vani is Brihaspati, and we will continue with understanding that in the next class. 2 weeks from now, no, maybe in the next week, possibly. Okay, let's just do the normal prayer that we do, and then we will begin the Mandukya Karika. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu, we have already said, so I'll skip that this time. So we are on chapter 4, and we were studying verse number 80 in the last class, and there are 100 verses, at approximately 100, I think, almost exactly 100, I believe. Let me look. Yeah, 100 verses. So we are in the final stages of finishing the Karika. So in this portion of the Karika, what is being pointed out is, if you do all the things, if you understand, not do, but if you think about all of the aspects that have been discussed here, the fact that the world is in the form of a show. It's in the form of a show, kind of like a movie in modern terms, but just a play which has no beginning and no ending. Here's the thing. So it had never began. This is the issue, that we have an idea that this show is going to end one day and then I will become free. It's not going to become like that. It's going to go on, and it's a continuous show. And the so-called death is simply a small interruption. So just like a sleep is a small interruption, you have a one act and a two act. It's just like a serial, a movie, a TV serial, where you can switch off the TV for a while and so on, but the serial has new filming that is going to go on. It's one of those successful serials that happens all the time. It becomes so successful that people don't want it to stop. In fact, finally, this serial called Friends in the US, and lots of serials in India also, where the people become so old they don't want to continue. That's the only time that this serial ends. But this life serial goes on and on. So anyway, this is what we have studied, that really you have to understand that your experience of life is never going to end. It is like, I've seen, you have these, what's it called? When they have lots of movies being shown together, like in Cannes, so they judge what the best movie is. Movie something, I forget that. Anyway, so you just go see, you finish one movie and you start another one. You finish that one, then you just go for a short, maybe some snacks, and this is exactly what death is all about. So the death is really just to refresh your body and mind and be born again. And then you are ready for another movie. So this is exactly what life is all about. So here it is said is that, listen, is there an end to this? Yes, there is an end to this. And that end is for you to see clearly. Convince yourself without any doubt that this in fact is a show. You have a life outside the show. Now that's the real meaning of the word show, isn't it? The real meaning of the word show is that it is comparatively not important. How? Because as long as you don't know this is a show, you think this is it. But as soon as you find out this is a show, you're reminded of the fact that you have a life outside the show. That life outside the show is so much more beautiful, so much more Ananda Swarupa, and it is actually totally free. And so the end of this whole process is to understand that I am not really, I'm not a participant in the show. I'm just watching the show. I have a role to play. We'll discuss this more in the Drikdrishya Viveka. But other than that, so the whole process of life is to convince yourself this is a show. And it's not easy. You are so involved with it that you do not really, you cannot see this. This is exactly what was pointed out in this verse from last time, which was the Sthita Pragyasya Ka Bhasha. Arjuna on number 55, I believe it is. And so Krishna replies to him, listen, the only way that you can become a complete free of all of this is prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmani eva atmana tushtaha sthita pragyasta uchyate. So he says the only way is you are not involved in giving reality to the various thoughts that come in your mind and the various proposals that the mind gives. You're so involved with it. This is the reason why doesn't look like a show. It looks like the real thing. And he says the moment you find that all these are just secondary and not needed, and you are okay without, so prajahati yada kaman. So kaman here means this is the thing we have to understand, that these things have to be really explained properly. All your desires have to go. So really what is talked about is that this show of desires slowly must just go away by itself. You should just let it go. And we are not really, we're not paying attention to that. I'm reminded of, just this morning I was just thinking about this. So I think I may have told you this before, that I met Swami Taranandji, who is the teacher of one of the three main teachers of Swami Dayanand Saraswati. And Swami Taranandji was the one who taught him the entire Shastra, the Sanskritam and so on and so forth. Of course, Swami Chinmayananji started him on the quest of understanding. But then Swami Pranavananda from Vijayawada was the one who gave him the idea that, my gosh, you're complete by yourself. You don't need to do all these other things and so on. And so in some ways, Swami Pranavananda was the one who is the real teacher for Swami Dayanandji. But then he recommended that now you have to really strengthen your understanding by thoroughly understanding all the Vedas, all the Vedic scriptures, so that you are convinced. Otherwise, what will happen is your doubts are going to engulf you. So go and study under a person who can reveal the truths from the various shastric literature and so on. So Swamiji must have asked him, who do you recommend? And I think he must have done that. Anyway, so he went to Swami Taranandji in Haridwar, and said, please study with him. And so for a long period of time, Swamiji studied all of the Upanishads, Prakarana Granthas and so on. So he is very deeply indebted to Swami in Haridwar. So I went to visit him, and I visited him twice, and Taranandji. And the first time I visited him was when I was still in PRC. Anyway, I won't go into the details of that. The second time I visited him, I think about maybe 15 years ago or so, 2005, in that time frame. I was visiting Rishikesh, and so Swami Shuddhanandaji says that I'm going to Haridwar, would you like to come with me? So I said, sure, I'd like to just spend some time and talking to you. And then he says, I was going to stop by at Swami Taranandji's place. Swami Taranandji at that time was in his 90s and quite frail. And so I said, I'd love to go visit him. So I went there. This was a short visit. And he said, can we fix a cup of tea for you? So I said, fine, that would be wonderful. So one of the brahmacharis brought tea. And we were just sitting, just talking about your health, how are you doing, and so on. And I didn't know what conversation to make of it. It's too short a time to ask him any Vedantic questions. So something just struck me, and I asked him this question. I said, Swamiji, you know, can you tell me, when you were a young person, was there a deeper study of Vedanta amongst the general masses in India at that time compared to now in 2005? And his answer completely was surprising to me. You are probably thinking, why am I doing all this in the middle of this Karika? But I have a reason for doing it, so I'll close the loop in a minute. So I thought, because in those days we were still not free of, we didn't have the freedom from the British, and things were really not that progressed. And now we have freedom and people are much smarter. I see a resurgence of the study of Vedanta and so on. So I thought things are much better now. His answer completely surprised me. He says, and he was very sure about it. It's not as though I think, no, not like that. He immediately said, you have no idea how much we have regressed. I said, what? How much we have regressed? He says, compared to the time when we were there. So, and he must have seen the quizzical look in my face, because he immediately came back and he says, I'll tell you why. This is the connection. He says, if you look at a average, this is the way God has really made the family and the people born and so on and so forth. He says, if you look at a normal family of 3 or 4 children, in those days more than that, but let's take 3 or 4 children, what you will find is every family has one person who is extremely bright, and the others are not quite there, but there's a certain family influence, but one of them outshines everyone else. He was just continuing. He was not asking for my approval, but he was just telling me. And so I said, yeah, so what's the implication of that? And he said that in my time, whenever it was in 1930s or somewhere there, and he was studying in Varanasi, because Varanasi is the seat of learning, really, from the old days. Anybody that wants to study Sanskritam, Nyaya Shastra, Niruktam, all the Vedangas and so on, that is the place to be. So he must have, I don't know his entire background. He's originally from Haryana, but he must have studied in UP at that time, in Varanasi. So he says, in my time, the society was not as externally oriented as it is now. The Western influence, that, we must develop, the development of cities as opposed to small towns and villages is new, relatively new. Everybody flocks there. Why do they flock there? Because things are more organized. There's roads and there's buildings and there's schools and cinema houses and so on and so forth. This is what is called the outside progress, which is completely opposite to what it should be. And he says, in my time, the family, the agriculture, and small crafts and so on was flourishing. And he says, amongst those, this bright person in the family, what is that person supposed to do? Where is the higher education? See, nowadays, so I'm just giving you the contrast between then and now, and also making some general observations, that now, just imagine certainly in my case, and certainly in your case, and possibly in mine, that's the other way around. When I was growing up, Then I was, we had to make a decision. Should I be an engineer? Should I be a doctor? Those are the two main ones. Even law was not really that prevalent. And so they said, let's make you into an engineer. That means what? Engineering college. In those days, IITs were not even there. I had applied to Kharagpur, then I found out that I was too young, so I could not even get into an IIT. But now there are so many IITs, so many beautiful colleges to get higher education and so on. So the brightest in the family will all go to IITs or to the medical colleges and now to business colleges and so on. In those days, Swamiji said, they weren't any of this. And so you really just had nowhere else to go. And you know where these people were sent? The very brightest one? Varanasi. Why? Because the parents, with the help of the wise people around, would say, this person is so smart, he's capable of understanding Sanskrit, he's capable of learning the disciplinary sciences that support the Vedas, send him there. And he says this was the start, and then you finally arrived at Vedanta, which is the final door for the freedom. You're done. And he said, now what happens is that the brightest people get sent into IITs. What does that really mean? This is where the Karika comes in. This is where the Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan. When you get into a IIT and you study engineering, now you have to apply it. And of course, one of the things that happens when you go to IITs in India is that word gets around, this person is an IIT graduate. So the best spouses are given to you. If you're a man, then word gets around, this guy is going to do well, let me get my daughter somehow married to him. And so marriage follows IIT right away. So it'll be very nice. You actually hear this once in a while. I see many of the swamis who used to go to IITs, but they stayed single. And not only did they stay single, but instead of applying engineering towards the life and so on, they turn into Vedanta. Lucky people. But in general, what happens is you get involved with life. Going to IITs and going into medical colleges, you become a doctor. And then US calls. And then you become a doctor in Midwest somewhere in Ohio. Very successful. Amazing. I think, we are in the Silicon Valley, we feel Indians have done very well in engineering, in which they have top class people, but nothing compared to how the doctors have done well in this country. They are so well received, doing so well. They're doing a great job all over. They don't make millions of dollars, but not the money. It's the engagement. They're busy. This is what is it saying. And so what happens is you are busy running the show. You're involved in the show. Your whole life is nothing but practical success, outside success, family, children, politics. You get involved. And the whole life, I'm sorry to say, is wasted. What do you have to show at the end of that? Do you look into the reality of what's going on? Do you have a chance of discovering that this is a show? maybe somehow you get hold of someone and then you say, oh my gosh, what am I going through is really just the show. The real thing is the study of Vedas, the study of God, the study of myself. So Swami Tarananji was saying, that doesn't happen these days. So this is what is called manogatan kaman, that you are so involved with life. You ask somebody, supposing this is what happens to us. You ask someone that please, will you please study the Vedanta? He says, not right now. Okay, not right now means what? Yeah, because I'm very busy with my job and my daughter is going into high school. All justified, by the way. My daughter is going into high school, so I have to support her doing this. Okay, all right. You come back after 6, 7 years, but the daughter has already left for college and his job is doing well, and he says, will you please study Vedanta? Well, not right now. Because, I'm involved in this project and I'm doing well, by the way. I'm doing very well. I'm a big boss and so on. And I have a global team reporting to me. Okay, we'll wait. You come back after a few years and says, how about now? Oh, I don't know. I'm getting old and I've got so many problems. I've got heart disease. I've got this, that, or the. The whole life goes. And so, really speaking, Gaudapadaji says, really speaking, when all these secondary shows are over and you reflect on your own Bhagwan's glory which is revealing through you, there is a gem waiting for you. If you don't really look into it, you wasted your whole life. And so in these verses, in Numbers 80 and so on and so forth, he's talking about the state of the mind where finally you are at peace with yourself. Really, that's the end point, is to be at peace with yourself. And you can never be at peace with the ahankara, the jivatma. Never. Because that's not the nature of ahankara. It's not the nature. Nature of ahankara is to be busy, having desires. And so the rajas becomes important. I've got to do things. Every day, even now, you just look at it and say, what is my day going? Oh, no, I got to do this. It could be anything. It could be gardening. It could be buying things, cooking, whatever. I'm very busy. I've got to do these things. And you're not at peace with yourself. But it is possible. Because you're looking at the wrong place. We are. I'm not saying you. We are looking at the wrong things. We are looking at becoming at peace with my own ahankara. And it is not going to really allow us. Only when we realize that the ahankara, the jivatma, is a false person. It's false. I spent the whole life in trying to be peace with it. And its nature is not peaceful. How am I going to be peaceful? Swami Dayananda used to say, this is a very beautiful thing he used to say. He says, ultimately, we are looking for inner security. So, artha kamam dharma. Inner security means that I'm busy trying to secure a future for me. Oh, I have to make enough money. I have to learn how to do yoga. I have to eat well, be knowledgeable about nutrition. And of course, I need to be engaged with the society. I have to have friends, otherwise you could become lonely. So that's a very important thing, and you have to keep calling people and saying, how are you? And worrying about how come no one calls me? All of those kinds of things. So you're looking for security, always. Swamiji used to say that, supposing you look for a security for a place, it's like, trying to place your foot on something which is very solid. Then you realize that where you put your foot itself is not solid. Then where is your security? And so if the ahankara itself is insecure and you're trying to make it secure, it's a never-ending thing. You have to be at peace with yourself, which is the Paramatma, the expression of the Sakshi. This is where you have to find. And you don't even know in the beginning, is it possible? Where this is where all the examples of falsity of ahankara, the reflection, all of this has to be given. And it is said, yes, your nature is Satchit Anandaha, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. You are birthless, deathless. This is not clear to me. But eventually we all have to reside to that. And so only then will you be at peace with yourself. So this is what it says, if you go to verse number 80, which we did last week. Nivrittasya apravittasya nischalahi tadasthitihi vishayaha sahi buddhanam tat samyan ajamadvayam. He says that indeed the nature of Brahman, which is uniform, birthless and non-dual, etc. And in the end he says, this is the important thing, and so Paramarthananda also made a note of it, Vishayaha So, Vishayaha here means this is accessible to, means that this becomes a reality to only Buddhana. So this is the difference, but as we were talking about the Brihaspati, intelligence and wisdom. Only when you become wise to this possibility, that is wisdom. So this is encompassed in the word dhiraha. That's why the word dhira is used so much. And dhiraha, you can etymologically look at it, is called dhihi ramyate. Ramate, I think, Ramate. The one who is playing in the Dhi. Dhi means the wisdom, not intelligence. Almost every day I deal with friends who are a lot smarter than me. Every day. Even my email, this, that or the other, whatever it is about, what is going on in politics, what's going on in India, and so on and so forth. Highly intelligent in the way they have examples and how sharp they are. I'm really amazed at that. I feel I'm nowhere near in that. But you know something? You talk about some reality of life and so on, and they'll say, but no, there's nothing about it. I don't know. I look into that, or they will just say, there's nothing in there. There's no wisdom. No wisdom. There is intelligence, but there is no wisdom. So here he says, Buddhanam means this is at least accessible. I'm not saying that I have become wise yet, but I think I am on my way to, I'm happy in some ways that my life, I'm just personally talking about it, that I had not got so successful in my life that it would, see, this is the problem. The outside success becomes a prison. Becomes a prison where you are so happy to be successful and you don't want to say, this is what happens. Supposing you made a lot of money and then you've explored a lot of things. I find this true. Now when people are retiring, they are saying, okay, now I want to see the whole world. Why? Because they have the money. They have the ability to travel. And of course, you study all areas. Oh my gosh, there's not a day goes by where, just the other day somebody was telling me, he says, have you been to Africa? So I said, no. He said, oh my God, you are missing something. So there are two kinds of people. This is very interesting. There are friends that I have who love Europe, the various developed cultures of Europe, the churches, the places to go to, the food and so on and so forth, the plays in London, the opera in Vienna, and these are one kind of people. And then there's another kind of people who say this is all bunkum. We need to go to Africa and see the safaris and see how the animals transport from one country to the other, and that is the beauty of the nature and so on and so forth. So now these people are so successful, they are traveling. This is all part of life's development, where you are so busy that you become a prisoner. Just the other day, a friend of mine was saying, you see, when they talk to me, they have no idea what my life is. So they'll say, well, what do you do? So I says, I have to make some excuses. I study, and then I have some students and I'm teaching this, that, or the other. Well, what do you teach? So I teach Vedanta. These are all Indians, by the way, Hindus. These are not Westerners who have no idea. These are people who are, it's just amazing. What is Vedanta? They'll ask me. What am I supposed to do? I know that he's not really somebody who would listen to me for more than 2 minutes. So I'll say, Vedanta, it's just a sort of like a study of life, Oh, okay. Where do you, these days they'll say, so where do you teach? So I said that I'm giving some classes on YouTube. Oh, can I sign up for it? I get a request once a month. Do you know I never sign them up though? Never. I assess them. Is he the kind of a person he is? Is he going to really take it up? And maybe I'm making a mistake, but I don't. In fact, my wife reminds me, she says, that person asked, did you sign him up? I said, no, I forgot, but I will. I'm not going to. Because I know if they are really interested, they will ask me in a different way. They are always asking me, I am a very busy person and I'm very successful. What do you do? In some way, I'm very happy that Ishvara has not made me that successful and that occupied, that I have to look for some alternative. It's kind of like Swami Taranandji is saying. So his Swami Taranandji's wisdom was just amazing. Really. He says that the modern life has become so externalized that even the bright people in the family don't have any other thing to do other than just become externalized. Swami Maheshanji also makes this point. He says that the Western culture of more development, does it really lead to an inner peace? It doesn't. It doesn't. And unfortunately, India is following that trend, and to a certain extent, it is justified. We've got so many people and they don't have jobs and so on and so forth. So it's good. I'm not saying that the development is bad, but it's just that in the entire cultural history. So this is part of the Kali Yuga. So in the Kali Yuga, this is going to happen. We are moving towards an externalization of our life where I have no chance of developing what's inside of me. Anyway, that's all what he's saying. He says, in 80, he was saying, this Vishayaha Saha Vishayahi Buddhanam Tat Samyam Ajam Advayam. To discover this is only the purview of the wise. Meaning, we don't find such people. What are we supposed to do? Then let me just quickly go through some other verses because we spent so much time just talking about all this. Then in verse number 81, it is simply a restatement of what is given in the 7th verse of the Upanishad. Ajam anidram aswapnam prabhatam bhavati swayam sakrit bhataha hi eva esha dharmaha dhatu swabhavata. And so he says that really speaking, this is one which never changes, never born. And anyway, it's a restatement of that. There is nothing new that is being revealed. And the reason for the restatement is that ultimately this is what we have to resort to. This is why restatements are important, because otherwise, so if the subject is not important, you bring it up at some point but never revisit it again. That means it wasn't that important. But in the summary, if the same statement that was initially stated, upakrama upasamharaha, so these are the various forms of what is the important, what is the tatparya nishchaya. So the tatparya nishchaya comes in only when there is a upakrama upasamhara. Upasamhara means the restatement, a summarization. And this is why they say the elements of a good speech. Good speech is that you have to state exactly what you're going to say, then you say it, then you end by saying, this is what I just said. This is where the encapsulation of the idea becomes very firm. So this is what number 81 is. So in 82, 9:15, let me spend maybe 5 more minutes and then I will close the class. I want to go up to 83, but we will go only up to 82. Number 82 says, Sukham avriyate nityam, dukkham vivriyate sada, yasya kasya cha dharmasya grahena bhagavan asau. Beautiful commentary by Swami Maheshananji on this. I'm sorry, Swami Paramarthananda, not Maheshananda. Swami Paramarthananda gave a very beautiful commentary on this, etc. So anyway, some points that I brought in from my memory of Swami Dayanandji and all the other ones. So, Sukham avriyate nityam. So what is talked about here is that why is it that I don't see the reality of who I am? This is a normal doubt that we all have. Why? How can I see this? I cannot see this. And so the result of this doubt is that it must not be true. If really my reality is non-changing, then I would be able to see it, but I don't. In spite of my best trial. And this is one of the issues that comes up for people that have been studying Vedanta for a long time. They'll say, I've tried everything, I've been attending classes, what do you want me to do? What else can I do? So this is where I feel, what I feel is that to remove these kinds of useless doubts in your mind, you must see some progress in your life. This is part of wisdom. This is what happens many times when you are climbing a mountain. And it's a mountain you do not climb, it's not like you're just going straight up the cliff as some of these daredevils do. There is a path around it, and then there's a forward slope to it depending upon how much you can do. And you just do small steps at a time. But it isn't not until you come up to a height and you say, oh my God, I have done quite a bit. This is good, I'm climbing. So in life also I find that until you evaluate some progress in your life, and then your doubts will be minimized. That I think I may not be doing as well as I would like to, but at least I'm doing better than what I used to before. And I'm very happy that some of the communication that you've sent me, and I would really encourage you. I thank you all for writing about your life and so on and so forth. I really appreciate it. It's really wonderful. Please, and those of you that have not done so, please do so. But what I find is, in almost all cases you say that I am doing better than I used to, and my family also sees it. It doesn't matter if the family sees it, it's really your self-evaluation. And so you have to make progress in that direction. So then you just say, keep going, it will come, it will come. Don't become impatient unnecessarily. So here it says, Sukham avriyate nityam. So he says, why is it that I don't see it? Why don't I see it? And so here, I think elsewhere it was said, I'm just bringing in those thoughts. In the Jagrat Avastha it is covered, in the Swapna Avastha the self is covered, and in Sushupti Avastha it is covered in different ways. How? In the Jagrat Avastha, it is covered by exactly what we were talking about, the externalization of our life. You're so busy, and you're so successful, and you're doing well. Either well or not well, doesn't matter, but you are just... So this is where Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, karma is very binding. Karma without knowledge is very binding. Karma with knowledge is freedom. Karma without knowledge means when you do something, this is why I'm talking about whether you're successful or not. If you are successful, you're happy with what you're doing. And you want to continue it and perhaps increase it. Excuse me. If you're not successful, without knowledge, you know what you conclude? my effort was not adequate. I must try again in some different ways. This time I will do better. Again binding. So anyway, in Jagrat Avastha, you are preoccupied. Okay, this is how it's covered. In Swapna Avastha, your mind is crazy anyway. It comes up with all kinds of crazy ideas. At least in the Jagrat Avastha, there is some semblance of order, some presence of Ishvara. Even that is very difficult to appreciate, but at least it's a possibility. But in Swapna, you're making up your own rules. And where is the reality for that? Not possible. In Sushupti, forget it. Because the primary ingredient in Sushupti is complete ignorance. So there is a thick cloud cover. So, and these are the three cloud covers. They are always difficult to do. And so he says, Sukham avriyate. Sukham avriyate means that it is easily covered. I'll complete the rest of this next time, but there is one thing I wanted to talk about, which is, itself will take a few minutes, but let me finish doing that, so it's on my thought. He uses the word Bhagavan for the Atma. Yasya kasya cha dharmasya grahena Bhagavan asau. So the Bhagavan means that this word Ishvara, Bhagavan means Bhaga Astiti Bhagavan. The one that has these 6 Bhagas is called Bhagavan. And so Bhagavan or Ishvara is pointed here out as Atma. This is a very important thing. And so how this is Bhagavan is, normally we think of Bhagavan as away from me. Means it is anatma. We put Ishvara in the section of anatma. This is a mistake. We are never going to find Parameshvara, Ishvara, unless we discover it is in the Atma. Not your ahankara, but in the Atma. So this is the real discovery of Bhagavan. So the identity between Bhagavan and Atma is pointed out in this verse. So I will make a point to explain this a little bit more detailed next time, because we are running out of time. I do want to spend some time in seeing if you had any questions. So let's close the class and we will continue on next week. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishah Go Brahmanebhyah Shvamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yam Kshobharahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Film Festival, yeah, that's the name. You're right, Chawla. That was. I should read this while I'm talking. This is a new name, Ram Mohan Gadiya Ram. So I'd appreciate just an email, just introducing yourself. Shanti Kumar, I got your email and I'm happy that you are attending this retreat with Swami Shankarananda. I think that Swami Shankarananda is the same as who I used to know in the ashram as Shankar. I believe it's the same person, but anyway, he's a good person. I think you'll enjoy that. So Varna said handbook, you mean manual. Yes, I think a manual of handbook. Handbook or manual, yes, both of them is what I meant. It's a complete manual. All right. Okay, so anyway, we'll we'll continue with this, obviously, with a more detailed explanation of some of this. Progress is slow, but I hope that you're okay with it. I just have to express some things instead of just quickly going through the verses and so on. The way I see them in my own mind is how I approach it, and might take a little bit more time, but in any case we are coming to an end, and then we will quickly redo the Upanishad. Not all the verses of the Upanishad, just the key concepts of that, in the way that it will become a good consolidation for you as well. And then we will go on to a different text. So with that, I take your leave and thank you. Bye-bye.